All right, here's a new topic for getting away from maybe Space Invaders if you've been watching those, and just how do I use a mouse in Code Sculptor in order to do some basic things. So let's try to figure that out today. It's not that hard. Let's go over to Code Sculptor, and here's kind of back to basics, our very beginning project in Code Sculptor. And yeah, I even have the old 800 by 600 in here instead of maybe defining them as width and height. So some things that are not great, but it's good enough for now. The first thing is that we're going to need, if we want to use a mouse, we have to have a handler to look at the mouse. The way that Code Sculptor does this is that it does two different types of handlers. One is if the person clicks the mouse. And we can call that anything we want. Click makes sense to me. And the other one is if the person is dragging the mouse. In other words, they have clicked and now they are moving the mouse. And let's just call that drag. So two different things. Actually, just moving the mouse seems to be part of, the operating system instead of what to do if the mouse gets moved. There may be a way to, no, because you can always, it's already showing the mouse on the screen, so you just don't need to worry about that, which you would have to put in some other programs, but not in this because of the way that it's set up inside a web browser. So we just want to define click. Click brings into it a position or a thing we're going to call pause, and this is a pause is a tuple of two integers x and y of mouse location is what it's sending you. So it's got two things in it. Pause 0 is the x value of the mouse. Pause 1 is the y value of the mouse. It's a tuple because tuples are like lists, but they don't change. Now you say, well, I want to change where my mouse is, but you can't override it. You can't say, well, if you click, I want the position of the mouse to suddenly equal some new place on the screen, right? Because that would be weird. It would just jump, the mouse would suddenly jump around. So you can't actually assign it a value. We'll get into what to do with it in just a second. But let's go ahead and do our drag. Drag has the exact same thing. I like to just put the word pass in here so that if you decide to run it and you're like, did I do everything right so far? At least it does something. If we didn't have the pass, it would give an error message. So, three basic functions and we'll fill them in. So just to see how the mouse works, what we're going to do is we're going to set up a, let's just pretend like we had a player, and the player has a position. And the player position is a list of two, right? So this is x and y, and the player position can change. For simplicity's sake, we are going to use a circle as our player. Once you get the idea of this down, you can do anything you want. So a circle has just a few basic things. First of all, it's where on the screen do I put the circle? And that's why we use player position, right? That's the XY of where it should be. How big should the circle be? Let's just make a circle of 50. You could say radius equals 50 up here and then, type in radius there if you want. Thickness of the line and color. Let's just do something nice and bright. We'll give ourselves a little room here. Okay, so we can draw a circle. Player position 0, 0 means the circle's up in the corner. Good morning, sun. But that's what it looks like. Okay, so what happens if we click? Well, just to see, what might happen is what if we made it so wherever you click, that's where the player's position goes. So the circle will disappear and reappear in a new place wherever you click. So we're going to do the player's position equals, and now you can just say the position of the mouse. But if we said that this is a tuple and this is a list, and so it's you can't do that, but you can do this, is convert position into a list and then assign it to the player's position. So that's just a way to get around the differences in those two types of data. All right. Oops, it's not working. Why? Oh, because player position is now a local variable, and we want it to be a global variable, of course. Boom, boom. So you can click all over the place. I bet the first time you do this, you could spend upwards of 5 minutes clicking before it gets boring that you just did that. But let's add it. This is going to be even more fun. Let's just say dragging instead of teleporting to where it's going to be. We'll try to detect that we're clicking on the mouse. On the circle. And if we do click on the circle, we want the circle to then drag to the new location. So we can pick something up and move it. How cool is that? So again, we're going to need the global position. And so you might just want to say, well, if you're dragging, then the player position should also equal the list of position. Is it really that easy? So if I'm here, and sure enough, it's working because I'm dragging and it's following me, but I kind of do this weird thing where I can click and then drag and it will teleport to where I am, which is, if you had multiple objects on the screen, instead of just one thing, like let's say I want to have a circle here and a square over here, and I want to say which one it is that I can move, or two different colored circles or something. And so you need to be able to detect, yes, I am on this object. So let's just make that one little change. We're going to do an if statement here, and this is like collision detection for those of you who have watched collision detection. Basically, is the mouse somewhere inside? Oh yeah, well that's dumb. Somewhere inside the circle. So, I can pretend like it is because I can do this, but also if I click up here, it will do it. I want to click over here and move and not have it work. But like my mouse has to be somewhere between here, here, right within this. So how do I find something within that? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this a little bit differently for those of you who watched other collision things that I've done, because I just had a revelation recently. Python is not my first language, and so sometimes I carry things over from one language to another, and Python has a simpler way of doing collisions than I've done before. What if I took a look at the player's position, their x value, minus their radius? So I'm just going to, just so that works. Yeah, it's not going to like that. Okay, hold on a second. This right here would be their x value minus their radius, right? This corner. So I'm going to say if this is less than my mouse. So right now my mouse x position is greater. Now my mouse x position is lesser, right? So greater on this side. So I say if my, here we are, if my player's position minus the radius is less than the mouse position of x, which is less than, and this is the part that I forgot you could do, and you can't do this in every language, a nice mathematical less than. So plus the radius, this is the right-hand side of the circle. So I'm going to say, basically, is my mouse position, my x value only, is it, between the left side of the circle and the right side of the circle? So if that's true, then I know that my mouse is somewhere in between there. I have to do the same thing for up and down. And because we're dealing with circles, this is really easy. When you're dealing with shapes, it's a little bit trickier, although there's some ways that you could get around it. So if the top the top of it is the player position 1 minus the radius. If that's less than the mouse position 1, which is less than the player position 1 plus the radius, which is the bottom of my circle. So if all those things are true, right, if this is between these 2 points and this is between these 2 points, then I'm colliding, and then I want my circle to follow me. So I can take it here. Uh-oh. Did I forget something where? Oh, haha. How many of you were yelling at the screen that I never defined radius? That's why I said you could put the radius up here. So I could have just put the number 50 here. But as soon as I start doing something over and over again, 50, 50, 50, 50, I think, oh, that should be a radius. Because, you know, if we wanted to make more of these or something, it's nice to have the radius there. So if I click over here, it's not moving. Anywhere I'm not on the screen. But now, oh, see, it just did, because I let go. But now I have it on there, and it's following me around. If I go really fast, I might be able to shake it off. But then it's just going to jump to where I ended up because of the clicking. So if you, it's kind of like a lag if you do that, right? But if you go slow enough for it to stay, you know, catching up, which you have to go pretty fast on purpose to lose it. But it'll come with you. So I can click, new location. I can do this. So yeah. Now, of course, you can do things other than location, right? What if clicking on it actually, instead of a click, instead of moving it, it changed like the radius, right? So what if I said, you know, if the mouse clicks and the mouse clicks on the circle, so that's the thing we didn't do on the click, right? Is like, hey, did you click on the circle? So I'm going to just copy this because there's my circle. And if the mouse clicks on the circle, then I am going to make my radius go up by 5. So they can make the circle bigger. While we're at it, you know, maybe we want to start this halfway on the screen, you know, right in the middle, instead of over in the corner every time. So every time I click on it, oh, see, I did not put radius. I'm just batting 1,000 on those types of things today. Every time I click, I make it bigger. Now the big question is, and I don't know the answer to this, is can you do other types of clicking? I bet you we could do a keyboard handler and say if shift is held down, then we could do something, right? So you could like reverse it or something, or make the arrow keys do this too. But yeah, right now it only gets bigger, and then I can drag it around. I don't know, and I'm going to go research to find out if you can do a, you know, double click or a right hand click, right mouse button click, that kind of thing. Right now it's just kind of like you do a click, you could do it. That's the problem of doing it within, well, before I was saying about the benefits of doing it within a browser, because here, if I double click, it already has what happens, because this is built into the browser itself. So it doesn't quite work, and to try to right click. But there's other things that you could do. And so, well, you know, hey, we're here. Let's do the easiest one. Set key down, handler, key down, and of course, as soon as you do the key down, you think, oh yeah, I need to be able to release the key, so I better do key up as well. The interesting thing about handler functions is how you can put them in any order you want, because as soon as it sees that behavior, it finds the function for you. So here we have a key, of course, and we're going to say We're just going to call something shift for a minute. Yeah, that's shift. Okay. Shift. Wow. And I want to say if the key equals the keymap of shift. See, I don't even know if shift is a proper word for that. So I'll have to look that up. But if they're pressing shift, then shift equals true. And then I'm copying this. And the big question is the word shift in my keymap, is that something that their keymap recognizes? But if they press key up, then it's going to be false. And then, so that's easy, right? Like here's my key down. I'm just changing, like I want to be able to notice that something's happened. And then in my click up here, if they are in the right spot, I can just say if shift, man, I cannot hit the I button today. Then the radius goes up. So if shift is true, it goes there. And if shift is false, then the radius goes down. I might want to change that actually. So now they have to press shift to go bigger, and then you let go of shift to go smaller. I'm going to just rearrange those. I like the idea of going bigger by default. So I'm just going to try that, and I'm going to get an error here because it's not going to understand shift. Haha, I'm good. No, I'm going to get an error there because I forgot to put colon. How about that? Okay, let's see that. Key error shift. Okay, so that's not what I was expecting, really. But that's interesting. Oh, do I just need to say shift equals false to start the game? No. Just because I don't want to bore people while I look up that, we could use the spacebar. Now, am I going to get an error? No, I'm not. So I'm not holding down the spacebar. My spacebar is up, as you can see down here. And I click, and it gets bigger. I'm going to hold down the spacebar and click, and it gets smaller. Now, if I click over here, nothing's going to happen. But there we go. So we can get bigger and smaller by putting a key at the same time as our clicking. It just makes more sense if it's a shift, but obviously I'm doing that wrong. It might be left shift, it might be L shift. Nah, it's not that. Yeah, it's not that. Well, see, that's why you got to look up docs. It's in here. I just didn't want to bore anybody, so go away if you don't want to see this and move on. Where do they keep that kind of information? Let's look for Keymap. Oh, look at that. You can't. Note that are not defined. Okay, so we can only do characters, digits, space, left, right, up, and down. So maybe we should have just used like up and down or something like that to do this. So we'll keep it as a spacebar. Well, at least that means I don't feel too stupid about not knowing that. All right. Well, that's the end of this video.